Why? Because everything was against it. The fact is that both Abraham and Sarah were old. Old might even be an understatement, given their age. So, from a natural perspective, it was a completely hopeless situation. But we are told that Abraham believed in this hope, this promise, in spite of everything. Though everything was against it, still Abraham believed. And he did, because God said it, it was settled. If God said your name will be changed to represent a father of many nations, so be it. Forget what they said about me. Forget all the jokes about my name not really living up to what it means. God said it, and that's settled. You see, brethren, through faith discerns God's unseen hand. We are aware that while we are at work, God is at work on the other side. Do you believe that? While you're here, God is at work on the other side. Though what He is doing is unseen from our side. I like how Brother Arnell prayed earlier. He said, even as we gather here, even now, Christ, you are interceding for us. Now when you look around the church, you kind of wonder, is God really interceding? Look at these people. Some of them are sleeping while praying. Some of them are looking around. Some of them are attending to their kids. Is God interceding? Is Christ interceding for us? Oh yeah, you better believe it. No matter what you see here. God is doing what He says He would do. He's working on the other side. Although, everything might be against it from a certain perspective. And that was the problem of Abraham. Pushing 100, wife way over 90, way past the childbearing age. But because God said, that's settled. You see, brethren, through faith discerns God's unseen hand. We are aware that while we are at work, God is at work on the other side. Though what He is doing is unseen from our side. It's very much like the story of the construction of a certain tunnel where one end, in Europe, where one end was in Italy and the other in France. I don't know if Pastor Gilbert has been through that tunnel. One end in Italy, the other end in France, miles apart. The tunnel. Now, a party of engineers worked on the Italian side for 6 years and expected at the end of that period to see an open roadway through the mountains. They knew that at the rate they were going, it would take 12 years at least to bore through that mountain. Yet they knew it would be completed in 6 years. Why? Because there was another party of engineers on the French side working to meet them. Mathematically speaking, if it was just from one side, it would take 12 years to bore through that mountain. But they said, we'll finish it in 6. It'll be done in 6. Because they knew of the other party. They knew it would be completed in 6 years with the help of the other party on the other side, on the side of France. And soon enough, these two teams would meet and complete the tunnel for one side, from one side of the mountain to the other. I'm no engineer, and it is a wonder to me how two tunneling parties can meet each other in the heart of a huge mountain. I mean, can you imagine that? They're boring a hole here, and they said, okay, we'll meet at this point. So the other one works, and they kind of go that way, and this one goes this way. Oops, we have to go. It's amazing, right? I mean, it's amazing that when they bore through a hole from one end of the other, miles apart, that they'll just connect after 6 years. To connect that hole. I'm no engineer, and it is a wonder for me to how tunneling parties can meet each other in a huge mountain, but they are able to do that. In the same way, I also do not know how the Lord's work in men's consciences fit with the ministry of the word from the pulpit. I am, however, sure that it will. Why? Because God is at work on the other side. You know, I have a friend back in high school, and this guy, he was a barkada. We were very close. and back in high school. And this guy is the baddest of the bad. I mean, he's got horns all over his, spiritually speaking, horns all over him. This guy had born rich, silver spoon in his mouth. Family had properties, and yet their family was a mess. 3 brothers, and it's a wonder. It's a wonder how I became friends with him. But that's another story. Anyway, 2 years ago, no, that was last year, 2009. I was in the States. I came back here before I left. I remember preaching here the Sunday before I left. And in the States, I received a text message, and it didn't make sense to me. It was one of our friends back in high school. And it didn't make sense to me, so I thought it was probably missent. When I came home, about a few days later, this friend who texted me called me up and said, they didn't know I was abroad. So he said, where have you been? I said, I was out of town. He said, didn't you know what happened to our friend? And so he relates to me the story. Well, to make a long story short, he ended up in the hospital with a cracked skull. In fact, crack is an understatement. They had to take out a panel of his skull because a policeman beat him up. He was a tenant in his apartment, and he had an altercation and all that, and the policeman beat him up, and so there's a court case now. And I said, you mean he was like 50-50? Oh, he said, no. The doctors thought he wouldn't live. And so I said, all these years, since I became a Christian, I've been praying for this guy. And I said, I wonder if this is the time. So finally, I called him up, and this guy, back in high school, he was tough. I mean, this guy, whenever he walked down the corridors that was in Ateneo High School, everybody just stood out of his way. And now, when I talked to him on the phone, and he described to me what happened. He's like 300 plus pounds, and he's 5'8". I mean, he's super huge, but he waddles like a duck. He can't even move so well. And that's probably why that happened to him. And when he related to me the incident, he was crying. And I have never seen this guy cry, but he was on the phone and he was crying. And I said, is this the opportunity for him? And as God would have it, we had a concert in church. The Holy Week was coming, and we had a little concert, evangelistic, so we'd share the gospel there. And I said, why didn't you come? I didn't want to pick him up because I wanted to see if he would come, and he did come. So first time I saw him, it's like, his head would be around, it looked like an H. It had a distinct part that was out there, and you could see the brain throbbing a bit. Sometimes it just go like that. Oh, whoa. What happened to you? And so I saw him, and he's got stitches on his head, and he came to the concert. Well, the concert ended, and that was it. And I said, well, the gospel was shared again. After that, he came to church. And I was surprised. He came to church. And I said, is God doing something here? So I told him, let's go to my office, let's talk. And so he wept again. He said, wow, he's soft as a muffin now. And so I said, this is probably God's chance. Started to share the gospel. And he was listening. This guy never listened to any teacher all his life. I mean, back in Ateneo, that's why he was kicked out. He doesn't go to class. Whenever he's in class, he's doing all sorts of things. And he was listening. But I knew he could not also keep up because something had, he had just been beaten up. So I said, I'd like to explain this to you. And no matter how busy I was, I said, God, you're giving me something with this man that I prayed for decades. And I'm going to take that chance. So I said, my Wednesdays from 2 to 4, you come here, I'll give you a personal Bible study. So gave him a MacArthur Study Bible. Here, your new Bible. He was so thrilled. He said, I didn't know it was this big. So now it's only big because of the quotations, parts of John MacArthur there. So I explained that to him, what a study Bible was. And so Wednesdays, I just talk to him, teach him scripture, and it was very slow. I'd say something, he'd catch it, and then later on